Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because President Donald J. Trump just called out the biggest betrayal that we've seen since he stepped back into the Oval Office. And Senator John Kennedy, he ain't holding back either. In fact, they're both fed up. And the traitors inside Washington, D.C. who leaked America's strike plans on Iran's nuclear secrets, Kennedy's got one word for them: Jackas. And tonight, of course, those same Jackas are about to find out that they're dead meat if they're caught. They're going to get it. They're not going to get away with this. I'll just go and tell you this right now, guys. Now, this isn't some DC gossip leak about who sat where in the cafeteria. This is about a top secret precision mission, a mission that crippled Iran's nuclear ambitions, a mission that protected you, me, Israel, and every American family from a future that we don't want to see. A nuclear armed terror state? Yeah, no, thank you. And yet somebody inside of our own government stabbed us in the back, spilling classified details that gave our enemies an edge, made our allies nervous, and made our troops less safe. So what's President Trump doing? I'll tell you what he's doing. He's demanding real justice, no cover-ups, no sweetheart deals, no slaps on the wrist. And John Kennedy, well, let's just say that he's giving the order in plain English. The jackass must stop, and the ones who thought that they'd hide behind bureaucracy, well, they're about to learn what dead meat really means when FBI and DOJ come knocking. So today's video, I'm going to break down exactly who's behind this leak, how this sabotage almost blew up President Trump's success, why Kennedy's warning is more than just words, and of course, what comes next, including a Supreme Court twist that just made this crackdown 10 times more powerful. And if you think it stops at the leakers, think again. Guys, there's billions in spending cuts, border crackdowns, and even some new evidence that the deep state might not survive this summer if President Trump and John Kennedy keep swinging. So don't you dare back away from this channel or this video. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you appreciate the daily news updates. All right, so how in the world did we get to a moment where the president of the United States and one of the plainest talking senators in America are out here saying flat out that these jackasses are dead meat? Well, we need to rewind just a little bit because this all starts with a real success story that the swamp does not want you to appreciate. When President Donald J. Trump returned to the White House this January, he made a promise. You guys might remember it. The days of tiptoeing around rogue regimes are over. In March, that promise turned into action. U.S. intelligence, with the help from trusted partners in Israel, tracked down multiple high-value nuclear targets buried deep inside of Iran's so-called peaceful program. Yeah, peaceful. Yeah. So anyway, here's the truth, guys. There's nothing peaceful about uranium stockpiles hidden under hardened bunkers. There's nothing peaceful about a regime that chants death to America on TV while secretly building the nightmare that we all fear the most: a nuclear bomb in the hands of terrorists. President Trump didn't blink. He gave the green light. Fast, precise, overwhelming force. No endless wars, no boots on the ground, just the right strike at the right time. And John Kennedy summed it up in one word: obliterated. Whole sections of Iran's enrichment pipeline gone in a single night. Storage, centrifuges, technical support sites shut down or just completely buried under concrete and cratered earth. And the message is clear as daylight. If you mess with America, you pay the price. And don't expect our allies to look the other way. China's generals took notice. North Korea's spy masters, they took notice too. Putin's inner circle watched the satellite feeds. And of course, the world quietly realized Trump's back means deterrence is back. And it means it in a big, unapologetic way. So, I mean, you would think that the swamp would rally around that win, right? You would think that they would be happy for America. Wrong. Because within days, maybe even hours, some spineless insider slipped a low confidence memo out to a few friendly so-called reporters. I really think that they're more like propagandists. But anyway, the leak really didn't even say that we hit hard. It didn't even imply that. In fact, it said, well, maybe the core system survived. Maybe the program's still mostly intact. Maybe it was all just a show. Total nonsense. But you know how this works, right? You already know how this works. The media, they went ahead and ran with it, right? CNN, Washington Post, The usual suspects, headlines designed to smear President Trump's biggest military win since the day he got sworn back in. The damage? Huge. Iran's puppet leaders played it up for their own people. Look, America failed. They're fine. We're fine. The great Satan's bombs did nothing. Pure lies. But this is what happens when a classified operation gets treated like a cheap political leak for a few extra points on cable news. And don't forget who paid the real price, guys. Not the swamp, not the leakers. It's the strike teams on the ground, the partners who risked their lives to supply targeting intel, the allies counting on America to keep the region stable. Kennedy nailed it. He calls this jackassery. I didn't even know that was a word, but apparently it is. Anyway, he says that this is what happens when grown men and women refuse to adult real hard, as he loves to say, of course, and they'd rather just sabotage their own commander in chief than admit that President Trump pulled off something smart, swift, and necessary. But let's be blunt, guys. This wasn't just some petty gossip dump. This was an intel leak with real operational details inside, okay? Methods, satellite coverage, even hints about our coordination with Israel. This is not harmless information. This is rather dangerous. And under President Trump and Kennedy's big Louisiana voice, these people don't get to walk away with a book deal or a cable gig. They're able to find out what dead meat really looks like when the DOJ and the FBI come knocking on their cozy little offices. Flying Circa 86 got stuck in 2 different scammy insurance policies that gave kickbacks to sales reps. It was a complete nightmare up until she heard about Chapter. She said, I made the call fast. I wasn't about to get stuck again, getting screwed again for another year. Chapter fixed everything. God bless them for what they do for seniors. And Francis Lutero wrote, we're saving $65 a month now. Chapter was a huge help. Guys, you're not stuck. You're not powerless. One phone call could be your breakthrough. Give our friends at Chapter a call right now and see how much money you can save on your Medicare. Phone number is 909-563-8279, or better yet, hit them up on the web at askchapter.org/Ron. Tell them Ron sent you and ask what you could save. It's totally free call. All right, so we know what got leaked, right? But do we know who did it? Who stuck the knife in America's back and why? Well, let's be clear, guys. This didn't come from some random blogger. This came from deep inside the house. And Kennedy, he's not shy about pointing the finger. First suspect, the leftover crowd inside the State Department those career types who think that they're smarter than any president, especially this one. Kennedy calls them flat out. These are the same soft-handed international relations experts fresh out of the Ivy League schools who spent 4 years under Biden bending over backwards to cut secret deals with Iran, whispering about peace in our time, while Iran was busy stockpiling uranium under the table. And when President Trump returned and pulled the plug on that mess, they panicked. Because a strong America means that their back-channel diplomacy fantasy goes up in smoke. So what did they do? Well, Kennedy, he says that they ran to their media buddies. They slipped them with just enough classified dirt to muddy the waters, wreck the victory headline, and make sure that the American people second guess what President Trump just did to keep the country safe. But of course, it doesn't stop there, because here's a second nest of swamp rats. The Hill crowd, right? So Kennedy didn't just sugarcoat it, right? Or he didn't sugarcoat it at all. Kennedy dropped a handful of Democrats on Capitol Hill, same ones who spent President Trump's first term leaking every phone call, every briefing. You guys remember that, right? Every backroom plan to sabotage his foreign policy. Those clowns are still around for whatever reason. Anyway, they still hate him, and they probably hate him even more now, and they hate him so much that they're willing to compromise yours and my safety. Maybe they didn't pull this leak off alone, but they sure didn't try to stop it either. So I will say that. Now, here's the kicker. This isn't just some harmless gossip. This is national security sabotage at the highest level. Every hostile power watches our leaks. And every time some swamp insider spills the playbook, it means more danger to Americans abroad, to our military, for our allies on the front line, and for the next mission that Trump has to approve. So what did President Trump do when he found out? Did he let it slide? Did he tweet some mild complaint? Not a chance, guys. He went straight to the point. Leaking classified strike intel is treasonous, and traitors get prosecuted, period. He ordered the FBI and DOJ to hunt this leak down, top to bottom, no matter whose fancy title or government badge is on the door. And Kennedy, he's the megaphone. He took that Louisiana drawl, stepped in front of every camera he could find, and he said exactly what millions of Americans are thinking. That jackass has to stop. If you leak America's secrets while our men and women are out there risking their lives, you're not just wrong. You're not just dumb. You're dead meat. That's not just talk. Under President Trump, there's no retire early with a book deal escape hatch. Kennedy, he says this is about restoring trust, because if traitors get a free pass, the next mission is dead on arrival. I mean, who's going to share intel if they know it's headed to the press? Who's going to risk their life if the swamp leaks their plan before they land? So you better believe these leakers are sweating, because President Trump has made it crystal clear. You break the law, you leak the secrets, you answer for it in court, in prison, or worse, if the law demands it. Now, this is how you rebuild respect for the flag, guys. And this is how you remind the next would-be backstabber, you don't mess with the commander-in-chief who actually defends his people. All right, so we got the strike, we've got the leak, we got President Trump and Senator John Kennedy both telling America exactly what comes next for the traitors who thought that they were untouchable. But now let's talk about the twist that flipped the entire swamp upside down. The Supreme Court's move that just slammed the door on all these backroom stall tactics that they used for years to try and sabotage President Trump's America First plans. So picture this, guys. For years, whenever President Trump signed an executive order or an order to secure the border, rein in spending, fix trade deals, or block shady international giveaways, what happened next? Some tiny courtroom in a blue district, one judge, usually handpicked by the same insiders who ran cover for the swamp, they will go ahead and slap down a nationwide injunction like a king rewriting law with a rubber stamp. It didn't matter if the people elected Trump. It didn't matter if Congress backed him. One row behind a bench would say, nope, stop everything. And then the whole machine would grind to a halt. It was never about justice. It was about stalling the president so that the bureaucrats could drag their feet, and just drag their feet until the clock ran out. That was their game. Kennedy's been screaming about this for years, and he calls it lawfare in black robes. You guys have seen it, right? Because it's not checks and balances if judges rewrite policy because they don't like you. Well, those days are over, because just days ago, and you didn't hear this shouted from CNN, the Supreme Court stepped up and shredded that trick for good. They ruled there's no constitutional excuse for these so-called universal injunctions. No old law, no precedent, no dusty page in English common law says judges can freeze the entire federal government with one swing of a gavel just because they think that they know better than the people who vote. Kennedy's words, they turned it into fish food. Good riddance. Well, and for the leakers, this ruling is just like watching the safe house door slam shut. Guys, they can't run to their pet judge anymore whenever the subpoenas show up. They can't file some emergency injunction to block the FBI from tracing the email chains, the burner phones, the late night calls to the newsrooms. If the evidence says you leaked, you're in the box. No more games. And so here's the part the media will not say out loud. This ruling, it's a full green light for President Trump's DOJ and FBI to move at full speed, no more swamp loopholes. So that's Kennedy's favorite part, because he knows what most people know deep down. America works best when courts do their real job, interpret law, and not hijack it. So now these traitors, they can't hide behind some courtroom halfway across the country. They have to face real prosecutors, real judges, real juries, and real consequences. But don't even get it twisted, guys. This isn't just about an inside baseball fight in Washington, D.C. This leak was way bigger than the headlines, bigger than some swamp power play. I mean, guys, this leak could have killed people, real people, and Kennedy is not shy about reminding everybody about that. When somebody leaks live strike details from an operation like the Iran mission, they're not just handing propaganda to Tehran, they're handing a blueprint to how to duck the next hit. They're tipping off Iran. They're tipping off Iranian intelligence on exactly how we track targets, what data we share with Israel, what weapons systems we used, what blind spots we plugged. You see what I'm saying here? Do you see how dangerous this is? I mean, you don't think China's watching that? You don't think North Korea is taking notes? Russia's got every leak saved in a binder. Trust me. Okay. And while these cocktail circuit insider leak secrets to score an extra hour on NBC, the real cost lands on the men and women who just risked everything to carry out the mission. The drone teams, the satellite crews, the Navy pilots standing by if something goes sideways, all put at risk by some smirking staffer who'd rather take Trump down than protect the people who keep them free to run their mouth. Kennedy's had it. He called it out. This is jackassery, pure and simple. Playing games with American security just to throw a cheap shot at President Trump. They never had the guts to beat him in the ballot box. Guys, he says it's not just reckless, it's traitorous. And President Trump's message is just as blunt. Leak on America's watch, and you will face the full weight of the law. No hush deal, no cozy transfer to some think tank, no book contract. Because every minute that we let these swamp insiders believe that they could just break their oath and walk away with a pat on the head, this is a minute our real enemies, Iran, China, Russia, they get braver. And that ends now. So Kennedy says it's time for grown-ups to run the show. This means no more childish sabotage, no more backroom whispers, no more secret moles cashing checks for treason. This is life or death. And under the White House, the days of treating betrayal like some political game, they're over for good. And Kennedy's not just pointing fingers. He is setting the new standard. Everybody needs to adult real hard. The jackassery has to stop. Now, all right, guys. Now, I want to go ahead and tie all this together because what John Kennedy said about adult real hard wasn't just some funny line for cable news. It is literally the new test for every insider left standing inside of Washington, D.C., who thinks that they're bigger than the flag that they swore to defend. Senator John Kennedy has been in D.C. long enough to watch the old games up close. Backroom whispers, anonymous leaks, hush deals that keep the same swamp insiders cashing checks while American families get nothing but excuses. But he's got no patience left. He's saying what millions of people wish someone in power would say out loud. Grow up, do your freaking job, or get the heck out the way. This leak scandal isn't just about nukes and Iran. It's about whether America's leaders still have the guts to act like grown-ups when the cameras are off. So Kennedy, he's been blunt. If you got an issue with how a mission goes down, say it to people's faces. Offer an amendment. Call a vote. Debate it in the light where voters can see you. Don't just like slither into a cloakroom, photocopy classified strike details, and then hand them to your favorite CNN producer because you want to get in the way of the last election. The message is bigger than just nukes and traitors. This is Kennedy telling the career lifers the days of cozying up to power, leaking to undercut your own commander in chief, and then crying about democracy when you get caught. Those days are over. And if you want to work for the United States, you answer to the American people, not your cocktail buddies at some Georgetown townhouse party. And you already know John Kennedy. He says it the way your uncle at the fish fry says it. If you can't handle grown-up work, go find another sandbox. File your hurt feelings report and let the rest of us get serious again. So obviously, John Kennedy, full of tough love, but it's long overdue, right? But here's the part that every legacy basically every, not even just pretty much every, I was gonna like leave some caveats, but really all of them are doing it. Here's the part that every legacy outlet buries. President Trump's entire strategy isn't just muscle. It's smart, it's targeted, it's compassionate to every honest American who wants to wake up safe tomorrow. So first, the rescission package, right? So Kennedy calls it spending porn for a reason, because this is what DC has been feeding itself for decades. Pork and pet projects that funnel your tax dollars into museums for countries that freaking hate us, for God's sake, right? TV networks that lecture you, and consultants who build you guys, consultants who freaking bill six figures just to tell you to accept decline? Really? Anyway, President Trump's plan is simple. Tear the garbage out, dollar by dollar, and put it where it saves lives. More defense muscle, more border control, more support for the agents who risk everything hunting down the same cartel bosses who would love to see these leaks turn our country into a soft target, right? And of course, second, the border. Now, of course, while the same insiders who leak Iran strikes used, to leak ICE raids, now they're on notice. No more running to the press to sabotage law enforcement. Under President Trump's DOJ and DHS, the gloves are off. The criminals Biden's open door free-for-all let in, they're finding the door slammed shut, or at least they're getting a one-way ride the heck out of here. And every leak that tries to expose those missions puts every officer on the ground in the crosshairs. So hunting the leakers isn't drama. This is defense. It's protecting our troops. And of course, we got to talk about discipline. President Trump knows the swamp loves chaos because it hides the rot. But discipline, this is what keeps families safe at night. If you can't trust your own government to keep the secrets that protect our lives, then what the heck is the point of having a flag at all, right? So this is why Kennedy's voice pairs perfectly with President Trump's plan. Kennedy brings the hammer and the plain talk, right? Trump, he brings the plan and the pen. Now together, they're sending a message from the Capitol to every agency basement. The adults are back. You had your party. You had your little fun, right? Now you clean up. It's time to clean up this mess, guys. Now, if you're the next fool who thinks a leak is worth a career boost, just remember John Kennedy's phrase. He said dead meat for a reason, because under President Trump's second term, the only thing worse than betraying your country is believing that you're actually going to get away with it. So here's how it ends. Not with another political press statement, but with an actual promise that should keep every swamp mole awake tonight. There will be no mercy for traitors, no loopholes, no sweetheart book deals, no hush-hush resignations where you kind of like slink out with a pension padded by the same taxpayers you stabbed in the back. If you break your oath, if you leak secrets that put troops at risk, embolden tyrants, weaken America's hand at the world stage, then under President Trump, you will be named, you will be prosecuted, and if evidence says that you broke the law, you go to prison. And John Kennedy's promise, if you want to whine about it, go ahead and file your hurt feelings report because nobody's reading it. This is a new era where your loyalty isn't your DC cocktail circuit, your secret media leaks, or your pet judges. Your loyalty is to the people who pay your freaking salary and wear the uniform that you claim to serve. So let the word go forth tonight. The jackassery is done. The swamp's rat holes are shrinking, and the next insider who even thinks about leaking anything or thinks that they're bigger than the mission, they're not just risking their own career. They're signing their own warrant. Dead meat. Kennedy called it. And for once, you can take that DC at its word. So here's what you should do next. If you're tired of the leaks, the swamp tricks, the traitors hiding behind fake headlines, I want you to share this message right now. I want you to also comment down below. Tell me if you stand with President Trump and Kennedy on this. If you do, drop a 47 in the comments, and make no mistake, guys, they hear us. Every share, every view, every voice calling out the backstabbers pulls us one step closer to cleaning the mess out for good. The grown-ups are in charge now. The jackasses are on borrowed time. So anyway, appreciate you guys. Hit the like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.